Trajan Langdon sparking a lot of conversation after his presser on Tuesday, talking about the Pistons' young core, their expectations for next season, and even the Malik Beasley investigation. Let's get into it all right here on Top Title Detroit. Let's go.
Perfect.
What's good? Welcome to Top Title Detroit. I am Eric Vincent, your host and Detroit Pistons beat reporter for ClutchPoints.com. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you for being here. Before we get going on the video, please, as always, help us grow our audience by liking the video and subscribing to the channel as well. We just cracked over 400 subscribers, and I'm so proud of that milestone. Thank you all so much for your support. It really means the world to me. Let's keep it going strong. Tell a friend to subscribe and lock in with us right here at Top Title Detroit. Let's get into the press conference from Trajan Langdon, which actually occurred right after the introductory presser for rookie Chaz Lanier. That was pretty brief. I'm not going to really get into too much from that. He said a lot of the right things, really gave a pretty good impression that he was excited to be here. Talked about, the mutual interest between the Pistons with, bringing in Chaz and him wanting to maybe be a part of the franchise as well during the process. Talked about wanting to step in as a defensive player, being a shooter, his familiarity with Cade Cunningham's game, a lot of his summer league expectations. He said a lot of the right things. It was pretty exciting. I'm pretty sure the Pistons have a video actually of the press conference itself. So if you want to check it out, you can watch it on their YouTube channel. And Trajan's his comments were the headlines that kind of stole the show. Again, it came right after Chaz's presser, and Trajan really got into a lot of the big conversations that have been had during the offseason. And something I respect a lot about Trajan is he kind of deals with it head on. There's a lot of headlines, a lot of controversy around what the Pistons have did or what they had to kind of go through based on the offseason. So really talking about things like the Malik Beasley situation, which I actually did a write-up about on ClutchPoints.com if you want to check that out. I posted it on my YouTube channel as well. So if you want to go to post, you can see the article right there. It's clear. You can check it out on the website if you want to check out the write-up. He talked about, the offseason, how it changed. He talked about the young core. I think someone actually asked him about the possibility of trading away the pieces of the young core to see about adding somebody else in to kind of add a veteranship to the roster. There was also a lot of conversation about the expectations of the team heading into next season as well. And again, I like that Trajan kind of dealt with it all and really answered it all. So those are three of the biggest things that I kind of, focused in on during the presser. And let's start with the Malik Beasley thing, because that's obviously, one of the biggest headlines still in all of sports at this point with how crazy sports betting is going. So obviously there's no ruling yet through the Malik Beasley investigation, but Trajan kind of gave us some insight saying that he spoke to Malik and his agents on the Saturday before free agency actually began. And I mean, as we all knew, when that news broke on Sunday, the Sunday right after that day, it hit us all like a tidal wave. Nobody expected to hear that story come out of nowhere the way it did. And knowing that he was going to be such a big piece of what the Pistons had planned, it really fell apart and really made and forced them to pivot into a second plan. And Trajan talked about a lot of that. He said they didn't really have a lot of time to really pivot to what they really wanted to do, but they made do with what they had. They brought in Duncan Robinson. You do an acquisition of Caris LeVert. You bring back Paul Reed. So you make a lot of the moves that you have, and obviously bringing back Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart healthy is a huge addition as well. But Beasley's, unfortunate fall through was very unexpected. And again, it kind of put him in a position where they had to pivot, and he was really disappointed, he said as well, because they said they were very excited to have him return back to the franchise on a 3-year, $42 million deal, which is the reported number for Beasley that was apparently offered. So we kind of talked about that. We saw them pivot to obviously drafting Chaz Lanier, bringing in the veterans that we just spoke about. And he says he thinks they would fit in just fine with this franchise. He says he really likes the veteran, penmanship of Caris LeVert's game. how he's, a rangy wing that can defend, multiple positions, score in a multitude of different ways. He brings a lot of things that the Pistons really need, which is initiators and guys that can set up shots for themselves as well as others in that starting lineup and off the bench as well. I feel like Karras is crafty enough as a scorer where if he did have to start, due to an injury or due to, a mix and matching of the roster, I think he would still be able to be efficient and helpful next to Cade Cunningham, granted all the attention that he's probably going to be still garnering as the Pistons All-Star. So, yeah, Trajan was really excited about that. He talked about, Duncan Robinson and what he's, was able to add with Miami, running a lot of pick and roll actions, a lot of screen actions with Bam Adebayo. Obviously, his ability as a shooter as well to kind of, fill in for the missing void, losing Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley shooting. That's going to be a big deal. And again, I don't think it's going to be just one person that kind of fills in what Beasley gave them with those 300 triples that he knocked out last season. Like, expecting that again is going to be crazy, especially considering he wasn't really a star. Like, guys like Steph Curry or Ant Edwards or guys like that, like, those are stars. They're going to take 30 shots a game. So for them to knock down as many threes as they did really makes a lot of sense. Beasley doing that in a 6-man role was kind of crazy. It was kind of crazy. So it would be unfair to kind of place those same kind of expectations on a guy like Duncan Robinson or Karras or really any of the Pistons. I think it's going to have to be a team effort for them to really hone in defensively, focus on what you got to do defensively to limit your opponent points and play your game as well, which should be team threes and running in transition the way that they do. That's going to be something that they focus on, and I think it's going to be a team effort to kind of replicate and fill in that void from Malik Beasley. And I think bringing in the guys that they brought can help get that done. Again, we'll talk another day about where I think their expectations are for me personally, but we'll talk about for now what we think Trajan has said, because he spoke a lot about how he still thinks the Pistons have an opportunity to compete as soon as this season. He said he likes where this young core is. He said he likes how dedicated they are. He says he's really pleased with the work that JB Biggerstaff has done, and he believes that they can still be competitive in this wide open Eastern Conference right now. Obviously, again, the big focal point is going to be the development of that young core. What we're going to see from Cade Cunningham going into his 5th season, Jay Ivey coming off his injury, Asar Thompson, he had a lot of really good things to say we'll get into in a second. Jalen Duren taking another step on both sides of the floor. Isaiah Stewart coming back healthy after last season. Ron Holland taking another step. We'll see what he can do in the summer league, as well as when he gets ingratiated back into the rotation in the regular season as well. Like, these guys are going to have a lot of responsibility and opportunity for them to show how they can impact this basketball team. And a lot of these young core pieces have a lot of their own avenues that they fill in. And I think that's why Trajan Langdon is so high on the trajectory of these young pieces, because they don't really bump heads in terms of how they play. Like, Asar Thompson is a very unselfish basketball player, so you don't have to worry about him stealing shots from Cade or anything of the sort. Like, I feel like you see a lot of unselfishness and selflessness from the guys in the playmaking roles that they have. Jaden Ivey's a selfless player. Duren's a selfless player. He likes passing. Cade's one of the best passers in the entire NBA. So you have a lot of good things to build on with that core based on their vision and their playmaking and their desire to be selfless together. And bringing back Ivey, you get that creator who is good enough to draw attention from defenders to create open shots for guys like Duncan Robinson, guys like Cade, Karis LeVert, Tobias Harris. You're going to find him, seeing Ivey or Asar slash into the box and getting an open dunk right at the rim. Same with Duren, with a lot of cuts and rolls that he sets off of hard screens that he's really done a good job of perfecting over the last couple seasons. I really think a lot of what the Pistons offer from their young players with their roles that they have, even guys like Beef Stew being not just one of the best defenders in the NBA, but one of the best dirty work guys around the league as well. Like, Duren and him have done a really good job of, basically hitting the glass and keeping possessions alive for the Pistons by scraping up, offensive rebounds and extra opportunity looks whenever they get a chance. Duren came on really strong doing that last season in the second half of the year for him. And I think knowing that they have a lot of these guys filling in roles and filling in needs that the Pistons need right away, and knowing that there's resources around guys like Asar Thompson and Ron Holland to improve their shooting, I think you're going to see that jump, especially knowing that they now all have an offseason to gel and work together as well. Trajan talked about that. He said a lot of these guys have been working together. They're dedicated to getting better, and we're seeing it already. Talked about Asar Thompson also putting on some muscle as well. Asar, I think, came into the draft at 6'9", 205, so he was pretty skinny and kind of lanky for his size, but he plays strong. And the fact that he's capable and working on playing stronger next season is going to be a huge difference for the Pistons. I think it'll add to his confidence to drive the lane a little more consistently than he does, for over the past couple seasons. And again, I just think that's going to be a dangerous way to open up his game because, yes, we do want to see that jump shot come together, but I think there are other ways that he can still score without forcing up, 5 to 10 3-pointers a game to suffice for certain expectations in his game. I don't think that would be fair for Asar. Like, again, we do want to see some of the progression. Shooting 22 and 18% is really not going to get it done. But if you can find other ways to get active as well, I think that's going to do a lot for the Detroit Pistons. One more thing that Trajan talked about was Jaden Ivey's return and how he believes that's going to be a big boost for the Pistons in terms of their playmaking and ball handling. So as of right now, it's just Cade Cunningham as their starting point guard. They have Marcus Sasser, who kind of plays as a combo guard. He's really better as a scorer, but sometimes they play him as point to, have some kind of ball handling around. But when you look at Jaden Ivey's return, again, like we talked about, he gives you a dynamic as an explosive secondary and primary ball handler for the Detroit Pistons, where he can initiate the offense in the half court, he can bring the ball up, or he can play off ball as well as one of their best cutters and passers off of action to get other guys open. Ivey has shown the capability to do that, and I think his return is going to be big. Trajan talked about his ability of being able to kind of run the second unit if necessary, or being able to kind of take on a lot of the playmaking responsibilities to help Cade as well. I don't think it's going to fall strictly on him because there's been a lot of conversations about them potentially adding another point guard, getting some more depth and assistance with, somebody else to basically bring the ball up and take some pressure off of Cade. And again, while I do think it'll be big to have Ivey in those staggered rotations, it would be helpful for them to have somebody else. However, I do think they still do have a lot of depth in terms of their roster already with ball handlers. Asar has shown his capability of being able to generate offense and bring the ball to the floor as well. And even guys like Caris LeVert, I think he's somebody else that Trajan talked about, saying that he could be a player that kind of sets the table for us if we need to as well. He's shown that kind of consistency and versatility in his game. And I think JB Biggerstaff is going to find a way to get him involved with that. I was just on Crunch Time Sports a little bit earlier the other day, and we kind of talked about this. They asked me who we thought the biggest beneficiary was going to be this offseason based on what the Pistons added. And I think it's going to be Caris LeVert. I think his ability to kind of create and, be such a versatile and dynamic scorer is going to really be beneficial and helpful for this team that kind of lacks that, especially on a consistent level based on how young the team is and how many injuries that they've gone through. I think having a guy like Caris LeVert, while he may not be a star, he is a veteran scorer and proven that he can be savvy enough to carry, scoring stretches for the Pistons if they need it in certain spots. So I really liked a lot of what I heard from Trajan Langdon. Again, I don't mind his approach of wanting to keep the development first. Like, there was a lot of pushback conversation because he also said, are we going to be good this season? I'm not sure, but we'll see, because based on what he's looking for is the primary of seeing what he has with this young foundation. He's talked about, the possibility of trying to have some trade possibilities or conversations based on the future of what the team could look like down the line, because he knows all contracts won't be able to be met, and people could have different goals in terms of what their careers could look like with the team. So down the line, he could be having those conversations, but as of right now in this year, they don't have enough data or information to kind of confirm where they're going with this young core. So I do think this is kind of a make or break period for them to prove a lot, to see who fits next to Cade, to see who's going to really be here under this regime long term, and what it's going to take to move the pieces around to get winning basketball and keep that in place for the Detroit Pistons franchise. A lot of questions answered by Trajan Langdon. Again, I really like a lot of what I've heard. I believe you can also check on that as well on the Pistons YouTube page. I think Channel 4 actually has some of his comments as well. A lot of good comments, a lot of good information as well. And again, I did a write-up on clutchpoints.com about the Malik Beasley investigation. If you want to check it out, it's right on the page under posts. But talk to me in the comments because I would love to hear from you. What were your takeaways from the presser from Trajan Langdon? What do you think about his comments about the young core? And what do you think about their expectations in terms of how competitive you think they'll be in the Eastern Conference? I would love to hear your feedback. Please hit me up in the comments so we can check out what you think. Thank you all so much for being here. I really do appreciate your time as always. Again, please stay locked in with us here. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend to come join the party as well. And I'll see you again right here on Top Title Detroit. Peace.